first up that I wanted to throw up there, and one of the ones that made me scratch my head, the Minnesota Wild over 94.5 points minus 108. This was a team last year that got to 97 points while Kirill Kaprizov missed a nice chunk of the season. Is there any reason why you think that the odds makers would have them 3 points lower or 2.5 points lower than what they finished last year? Because I don't see that. Like, I feel like this is one of those really easy ones that, like, there's no reason they shouldn't clear that easily. And then at the end of the year, you're like, oh, I guess they were right.
Straight delusion. There's no other real way to put that. Like, I get that the Minnesota Wild, maybe they don't look fantastic on the blue line. Like, I think we can agree on that, but they're good in goal, and a healthy Kirill Kaprizov and a healthy Joel Eriksson Ek and the rest of the gang, they can win games. I think maybe odds makers have them where they are just due to how competitive their division is going to be, and having to play Dallas, having to play Colorado, like having to play Winnipeg, and then who knows what you get out of Nashville and St. Louis. There's so many games that are going to be tight that even if they do play 500, then they'd have to be like 650 against the rest of the league. But 94.5 basically has them as a fringe playoff team, and I don't think that's correct.
All right, so go ahead. What were you
gonna say? All I was gonna say is I agree with Chris here. I think it's because of how competitive that Central Division is, with Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado ahead of them. I do agree. I think they're definitely better than the 94.5, and if Kaprizov can stay healthy, they'll make it easy to 97 again.
Now, you talk about the division. Let's just use that to segue to the next one that kind of jumped out at me. Winnipeg Jets over 97.5 points minus 118. This is a team that last year, 116 points, took home the President's Trophy in that very tough division. Pretty much running back the same team they did last year. No Nikolai Ehlers, but to have a 23.5 point drop, or excuse me, a 19.5 point, 18.5 point drop, if I could do my math correctly. I expect them to not have 116 points, but to basically have them all the way back down to 98. Maybe the NHL, maybe the thought process is in that division, you're not going to really have a ton of teams close to that 108, 110, and everybody's kind of going to be sandwiched in to that 100, we'll say 96 to 105 range.
I think the thought process here is they're looking at playoff Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck in season is one of the best goalies around. So I see them around probably like 108, 110, definitely not 116. I don't know if they could bring it back to 116 again, but I think 108, 110 is fair. 97.5. I think that's doing them a disservice considering how good they were last season and winning the President's Trophy.
And they got to 110 the year before that. Now, the year before that, 2 years ago, was 95. But we really just keep it to the last season and the previous season. So average 113 over the last 2 seasons for Winnipeg.
And that 95, that year that they got 95, that was the year they were supposed to break everything up, right? Everyone was going. Hellebuyck was going. Scheifele was going. The whole team was going. And then they bring them back. And then the last 2 years, they're the best, basically the best team in hockey.
Yeah, I don't know. I expect a correction. Yes. I also don't think the loss of Nikolai Ehlers is an 18-point swing in the standings. Like, that's.
And they brought in Gustav Nyquist, which I understand is not, but I mean, they did plug the hole.
It's not, but this also frees up a spot for Cole Perfetti to do something. He isn't going to be saddled on the fourth line, hopefully, anymore. This is a very mature Jets team. Their defense is good. They have a world-class goalie, and that'll win you games no matter what. Like, he's going to go out there and probably steal games for his team. I do believe that there will be a correction. Yes. But 97.5 is just like, that's too low. Again, that if you think they can compete for the conference, right, title, or if you believe they can win their division, like 97 is not going to cut it.
I would see if you could even move that number up to get better odds there. If you can move it up to like 100, still.
I think they probably break 100 anyways.
Yeah.
Like that just, I don't know why it's 97.5.
Even factoring in the tough division and the improved stars and some regression that should just happen based on can they really, crack 110 3 years in a row. Yeah, 100, like to get to 100 seems like a no-brainer here. And again, Connor Hellebuck gets hurt and misses 2 months of the season. Well, okay, well there you go. It's out the window at that point. So maybe they're anticipating an injury with Hellebuck because the guy's been a workhorse the last couple of years. Maybe there's a breakdown coming, or even if not a significant injury, just something that takes them, probably knocks them down a few points in the standings. So, yeah.
That's definitely a slippery slope to take right off the back. Like expecting if you're expecting Connor Hellebuck to get hurt, man, you better make sure you get that right. Putting money on that to be, what was it, 97? I can't see. I think they definitely break over 100. It's somewhere in between 108, 110. I think.
Because there are some questionable teams like that we'll get through that have higher point totals than them.
Yeah,
and I'm like, wait, where? How did this happen? That's not it.
All right, so I was going to go in a different direction here because I have the teams lined up and we'll go back and forth here. But you because you said that, this is the one I think you're talking about here. The Kings over 98.5 points at minus 114. Now, yes, Edmonton is running back the dominant regular season squad they have. Yes, Vegas is better. So that definitely, but they only play each other a few times. They only play each other 4 times. So, like, it's not going to be that much, like, in point differential there. The Kings, as we've talked about, we don't love their blue line additions, older, slower guys. Yes, kind of fits into the way they play. But, I would consider the over here, but I mean, that one is probably worth sweating. And like, you could probably even look at you could talk me into the under here, but yeah, this is probably one of those where how are they over Winnipeg?
It doesn't make sense because if you're looking at the Jets to make a correction, then you have to believe the Kings are going to make one as well. They have brought in some of the oldest and not useful players any round. Like no disrespect to Corey Perry, but he's 40. And then they brought in other players that are just like, this is a team that's not getting better. They're also not really that young. And I get Darcy Kemper had one good year and it was really, really good. And a lot of people are going to drink that Kool-Aid, but like he is built of paper mache. One little gust of wind the wrong way, and that groin is gone, and he's gone for a minute. And they don't really have a backup. And they were exceptionally good on home ice. Exceptionally good. So there has to be some regression. Yes, they'll probably be a little bit better on the road than they were, but they were like just the gap was too big for them. So even if their division is a little bit easier, because yes, they get to beat up on, the Sharks. Yes, they get to beat up on the Ducks, who are apparently a playoff team. We're
going to talk about them next.
We got a whole bunch of teams here that are all of a sudden getting better, right? Like, yes, they get to beat up on Vancouver, but I mean, 98.5 is quite a number for them. That is bold.
Brian Dumoulin, Cody Ceci, the main defenseman they brought in on that are going to round out that third pairing for them.
That you're telling that's the third pairing that's going to help keep you over 98.5.
And Anton, now listen, we saw what happened with Darcy Kemper. He came in and all of a sudden he was an all elite goaltender for last season. Anton Forsberg comes over as the backup now. Maybe that has a similar effect on him because I mean, he wasn't doing the Senators any favors last year. That's for sure.
To be fair, though, the Senators do nobody any favors.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe if they do go with more of a timeshare, maybe he benefits the same way Kemper benefits.
I'm just saying that Darcy Kemper, that he finished with a .922 save percentage and a 2.00 goals against average. Those are some of his goals against average is the best of his career. Like that's the best
Like-
goals against average he's posted. That is below his career average, which is 2.54. So there is some regression that is coming with him quite a bit. I get it, like the Kings are good defensively, but now you employ Dumoulin and Ceci, and that is not a recipe for success. But I just, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how you swallow that one and think it's a good idea.
Just looking at his stats, Kemper always seems to regress after having somewhat of a big year. He did it after that year with Colorado, although he changed teams and went to Washington. Arizona 18-19, he regressed, twice. So I think Chris is right on that. Spot on.
Now, I was the biggest Darcy Kemper guy on this show last year.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting off at the next stop. I was already thinking about that. And, Chris alone, I mean, just hanging around with him for too long, like I'll end up throwing eggs at Darcy Kemper's house if I hang out with Chris for too long. So, yeah, I think this year I'm off that train.
So thank you for your services. Wish you well on your future endeavors.
Listen, you don't have to. You don't have to love these players, the guys that you took last year. The team that you built last year won't win you a championship this year. So somebody's gonna get somewhere. Like
Wise words.
When you got him last year, like that was a discount. Somebody's taking him as like a top 10 goalie, and you're like,
He's
that's
probably closer to 10, but yeah.
That's crazy when you think of how many good goalies you could get, and taking him as like close to that like 8 to 12 range. That is like, some people didn't have any faith in him last year, and you did, and you benefited from it. But if somebody's going down that path of saying, oh yeah, man, I believe in Darcy Kemper at his career best 2.0 goals against average at, how old is he now? Like 35. He's 35. Oh man. Do I have a beachfront property in Saskatchewan for you?
I'm not betting on him again, but a guy I will bet on every time for showing up, Marek. We asked, we shall receive. Good to see him as well. The whole family's getting back together. It's not quite Thanksgiving yet in either of our countries, but we got that vibe today. We'll stay in Southern California. Let's talk about the Ducks. I do have my Chris Kreider jersey on. You can kind of see it there. Yeah, kind of see it through the chair. Nonetheless, he is now an Anaheim Duck. And off-ice stuff aside for Joel Quenneville, when he was last coaching with the Florida Panthers, his performance as a coach was not the issue. So, yes, he's been away from the game, but I don't think this is a situation where the game has passed him by. Looking at you, Lindy Ruff, I think 80.5 for a team last year that got to 80, and you can make the argument is a better team both on paper, up front, blue line. Those still supposed to take another step this year. They have Mrazek if things go wrong and better coaching. The division is not very top heavy. I think 80.5, I don't think is that crazy for them to get to 81 points. Have one more point than they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only reason, is because they did it with the squad that they had last year. I think a lot of it comes down to how much Jacob Trouba and Radko Gudas play, because like they're older now, and their style of play is very different. Bringing in some veterans is going to help a young team. They still have to figure out what they're doing with Mason McTavish, because he doesn't have a deal, and I might be biased here, but I think he would look great in Bleu Blanc Rouge. So, maybe that can happen from there. But yes, I don't think it will hurt them to have a veteran coach there to assist them and go through the growing pains of what trying to be competitive looks like. There were a lot of nights where the Ducks just didn't look competitive. They weren't good defensively. They gave up too many shots. They couldn't generate a lot of offense. And yes, those styles going to take over, but this is going to be the first time in his career where he's going to be, I guess, heavily counted on to produce. Like John Gibson's no longer there, where Dostal can get like a 50-50 split. You don't pay Dostal to be a 50-50 split guy. You want to see more out of him. So I'm a little bit worried about how his body's going to handle it, the workload he's going to handle, because if he's out there facing 45 plus shots a night, like it's not going to matter. he's going to break down, and then whoever else steps up at that point, it's not going to matter. But I will say that with you for 1 point more. I mean, I would take the over, but I wouldn't go crazy about it.
Would help if I turn my cough button on again. And yes, the blue line, Gudis and Trouba, but Jackson Lacombe certainly played well the back half of the season last year. See what happens with Olin Zellweger. He's another guy. Pavel Mintyukov, more of a power play specialist, but still reliable back there. And yes, Mason McTavish would look good, and I think that would be just what the doctor ordered for the Canadians. But we'll talk about them at a different time.
I think that I'm going to go over with the Ducks here. I think 82 to 85 points for them, just for having Joe Quenneville.
And here's the other thing, too. And I understand this is one of those situations where, yes, the line I'm about to say 2-3 years ago would have been like, oh, that's a good line. But when Ryan Strome, Frank Verchano, and Mikhail Granlund's your third line, all right, that to me at least indicates that you're moving in the right direction. You're trying to be. Am I saying the Ducks are a playoff team this year?
No.
Absolutely not. But to clear 80.5 points, with a goaltender that they're going to give every chance to be the guy. And yes, is Pete Mrazek great? No, but when he played, he was good. Yeah, so
solid enough. Yeah, in his 26-year career coaching, Joel Quenneville has only one lost season, and that was the 2017-2018 Chicago Blackhawks.
Which that team was the dynasty
done by then.
Done. Yeah, the ceiling was starting to cave in there a little bit.
One losing season in 26 years.
So I mean, yeah, I think
he's about to have a second one.
I mean, you could still clear 80.5 and have a losing season. But
losing. You know what I mean? Like if they're like a 500, you know what I mean? If they're 1 or 2 games over 500, sure, I guess mathematically it's not a losing season, but
yeah, they were 35 and 37 last year.
So this is what we're going to do. We got a few more teams. We'll finish up the West today. We're going to save the East for next week because I got a lot of teams lined up, and I know I want to get to the mock draft here in about 10 minutes or so. I got 3 more teams we'll talk about today. We'll do the Eastern Conference next week. To me, this is a no-brainer. There's really no reason to look like if you wanted to talk about the under them for them, which by the way, since I did the research for this, it is now up to 81.5. So I think they're starting to catch up at FanDuel at least a little bit.
They're watching this show.
Maybe. And then just to go back to what we were talking about before, if you agree that the Kings getting 98.5 is a little too much, you go under at -106. So
that's because Adam dropped 10K on 80.5 of the Ducks over, and then the line shifted. That's why.
Yeah, while Anthony was talking, I was busy doing what I needed to do.
Yeah, just moving moving the kids' college fund into the Anaheim Ducks over 80.5.
Fingers crossed. I guess I'm going to Duck Sharks this year and rooting for Anaheim. Anyway, I don't have out of all the games I picked, I didn't pick any Ducks games this year. It didn't work, but maybe now I have to. I am going to see the Wild on New Year's Eve. One of the things you missed is we each adopted Central Division teams for the season. I adopted the St. Louis Blues. Chris adopted the Wild. So you've got to pick from the remaining 6 who's going to be your Central adopted team for the season. So yeah.
You have time now. You can think about this.
I got to decide today. It doesn't have to be. I mean,
adoption is a big thing. You know what I mean? Like,
did you specifically stay away from Winnipeg's the Stars in Colorado for a reason?
No, I'm high on the Blues, and you know what? We'll talk about them next if I'm bringing them up here. But
we're staying away from the Predators and the Blackhawks. That's for sure. I assume.
I could see the Mammoth being your team. I could see that being a good look on you. Maybe we'll talk about them next week. But let's talk about the Blues here. We went back to the Central Division. Let's talk a little St. Louis Blues hockey. 91.5 points for the St. Louis Blues, and I understand they went on quite the run to close the season. They finished with 96 points total. Previous season, they finished with a total of 92. So they've cleared this total the last 2 years. And if you want to go back 3 years, okay, they had 81 points that year. Before that, not the best season in St. Louis. Nonetheless, they've cleared this total the last 2 years. Again, I know that they closed the season on a run just to get into the playoffs and get there. But, I know it's a tough division, but they hung with Winnipeg in the playoffs. there's really no team in this division. Like, yes, I know Colorado's better. I know Dallas is better. I know Winnipeg's better, and probably Minnesota too. They can beat all those teams. They're built in a way to try and beat those teams.
I'm just having a hard time getting behind the St. Louis Blues. I'm just going to keep it a stack. I'm like, they had to go on that crazy run just to get to 96 points, right? Like, and then all those teams you just mentioned got better. And did the St. Louis Blues get better over the summer? Not really.
I will argue they did, but not in the, look at the firepower we added. Suter and Bjugstad, tough guys to play against. I think they know that they can't keep up with the Joneses in terms of the talent level that Dallas and Colorado have. So they just have to bring in, use an old-fashioned term, muckers and grinder types that are just tough to play against, and sandpaper, whatever adjective you want to use to wear them down. So in that regard, I do think they're a little better because they are going to have a third line that's tougher to play against. Sundqvist, Joseph, and Toropchenko on the fourth line, or at least right now.
I'm just having a hard time trusting them.
Okay. You don't trust Jim Montgomery? Because, I mean, he came in last year. And I think that he, like, if anybody can get the most out of that team, it's probably him. And I think the Blues as an organization and the players believe that, because they wasted no time getting him in to St. Louis when he became free. They're like, hey, buddy, come on over. Like, get on the plane. We'll deal with our situation here. And yes, when he got there, St. Louis, all of a sudden, they turn things around, they get better, Boston ends up selling, and look where they are, kind of thing. But it's still a really tough division. And yes, I agree that they are maybe a better rounded lineup, but at the end of the day, you have to score goals. And that might be a problem for the St. Louis Blues. It's going to be hard to generate that offense consistently at a level that some of those other teams in their division are. Like, you can win games, 3-2 and stuff like that. But what if you get behind the eight ball, I don't know, you're down 2-0 or something in the first period. Like, how are you going to crawl out of that hole afterwards? I don't know if they have the elite upside on that roster to do that. Jordan Kyrou still puts the puck in the net. Jimmy Snuggerud, full season of him. Dylan Holloway, I think he maybe takes another step this year. Again, it's not. Buchnevich still going strong there. Listen, I understand it's not Mikko Rantanen or Nathan McKinnon or Kirill Kaprizov on that roster. I get it. Maybe it's just because I've fallen for this team. Maybe because it's now their mind season. So maybe I've got blue-colored glasses on right now. But
They're
bottom line is,
I love.
Maybe. But I like the way they play. I think the whole Jordan Binnington is not a good goalie anymore narrative needs to at least be put to bed for now. I'm not saying put a nail in the coffin, but it needs to be put to bed for now. The way he played with the Blues in the playoffs and the Four Nations face-off for Canada, I think he's at least earned the right to come into I'm not saying he's a top 10 goalie, but he's a serviceable guy that you can put out there every night, and he's not going to cost you games. I haven't seen him try to fight in a while, so that's good. Maybe he's past that.
Maybe he's reformed.
Yeah,
maybe he's reformed. Maybe he's a better man now.
Possible.
That's the thing too. Like, can Binnington carry over this momentum? Can the entire Blues team carry over that momentum that took them all the way to Game 7 in overtime against the team that won the President's Trophy? Can they continue to show that momentum with a good coach like Jim Montgomery? And you put it in the right direction. 91.5 points here. They had, 96 last season. I could see them around 92, 93.
Okay. Here's my thing. And here's another thing too. Jake Neighbors, like a poor man's Matthew Nyes. Like, it's crazy that we're already saying poor man's Matthew Nyes, but with the contract he got, we can start referring to him that as a guest. But like, if he's another guy too, that if he just takes another little bit of a step in a development in the right direction, he can have a big impact on that lineup too. Let's see here. Marek, I hate the fact that it's all the same teams in the playoffs and ahead. Can we not have a Cinderella team that can surprise you? Born again goalie. I like that. That's the name of his biography. There it is, or his movie. The story about Jordan Binnington, born again goalie.
I would love to watch his an autobiography about his life. Like I wouldn't read it because I don't want to read, but I would watch a movie about his like, his career and stuff, and then like how he is.
What about
Who should play Jordan Binnington in the movie? TotalHockeyNow@gmail.com. Let us know who should play Jordan Binnington in the very well named by State of Survival Born Again Goalie.
Born Again Goalie is a good one.
That could be a segment on this show too. A goalie that's had a resurgence lately. That's an in-season fantasy segment.
That was Darcy Kemper last year. So
he was last year's Born Again goalie.
Yeah, I mean, so you can't do it twice. You can't do it. Listen, you can't do it twice. You can't be bored again.
I think you could have two people because the whole thing, the impetus was Jordan Binnington. So I feel like we can have two goalies that get that honor each year. Kind of like the William Jennings is a 2-goalie award. We'll consider Born Again goalie a 2. We'll do 2 people.
Right, but Darcy Kemper can't be bored again this year. You know what I mean?
No.
So like,
and Binnington too. They're off the table. They are ineligible. It is now a 30-team poll. 30 goalie, but could be a backup that comes out of nowhere. But those 2 goalies are out of the mix. So Born Again goalie. Love it. Can't wait. TotalHockeyNow@gmail.com. It is mock draft sign up time. So what I'm going to do to make sure we're all on the same page here is I'm going to open up Yahoo. We're going to go to the mock draft, and then we'll talk about one more team while we kill time because sometimes it takes like a good 5 minutes to get in there. I'll let you guys decide, Flames or Oilers. We're going to do them before we go, and then we'll save the rest for next week.
Do the Oilers.
Yeah, we want to do the Oilers today? We'll do the Oilers today. All right. Let's see. I thought I had that tab open, so just bear with me, fellas.
Gotta do the Western Conference champions.
I want to say some mean things about the Oilers, and I'll say some mean things about the Leafs next week.
Okay, so wait, no, we're going to do Oilers today and save the Flames for next week. Is that the way we're going?
Yeah, we can.
All right,
throw the Flames in there quickly. They're not. There's not much to talk about with them. Kind of like their roster.
So, all right. Well, we'll save the Flames for next week. Let's talk Edmonton. Under 106.5 points minus 115. How do we feel about this? Because I think Vegas wins the division, but looking what Edmonton did last year, as I minimize that window, there it is. Edmonton last year, 101 points. The year before that, 104. Year before that, 109. So 2 years ago, they cleared this total. Haven't cleared it the last 2 years. Vegas is better. I mean, unless they think the rest of the conference is so thinned out to the point where they're going to feast a little bit. But I think under 106.5 makes a lot of sense to me. I don't see them clearing that.
I don't know in what universe people think they're going to, like, they've gotten better. I don't get it, right? Like you said, the last 2 years, they've gone to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they haven't cleared the number. And we can all agree that looking at that roster, they have not gotten better. So in what universe is this team with this defensive structure going to clear 106.5? I don't understand.
They still have Stuart Skinner as their goaltender, right? Like I didn't miss the change, and I just dropped the lobby in there, and I'm going to share my screen so we all can sign up for the same exact one, and then we'll get back to Edmonton there.
Even if he, like, what's the, I don't know. I'm trying to understand the logic behind it, and I can't get it.
We'll be doing the power play 208-7441. I'm going to be the guy to slow the draft down in the middle. Go,
Pulse.
Chris is already in there. All right, I'll move. You know what?
I will be the. Oh, you go. Okay, there you go. Okay.
I'll pace the draft. I haven't done from the top position yet in all the mocks I've been doing.
That's fair.
And then, yes, we are doing the power play 208-7441 if you would like to join us as well, along with Chris and Anthony and myself. Still a few spots open. Always nice to have some live people in the room doing a 12-teamer. I will say it's sometimes annoying when, like some people put automatically on auto draft. I do find that annoying. Then why'd you sign up? Like, what are you doing? But
I'm okay with it. I want some of those. Just, I need some real people so that it doesn't just take the next best player available. And sometimes I want that dude.
As McDavid resigned, he dragged him back to the playoffs. Of course, he's going to drag him back to the playoffs. That's what Connor McDavid does. That's going to be an interesting story all year long to see how that contract status goes. But to Chris's point, like, yes, they've gotten the Stanley Cup, but they don't clear that point total. Doesn't seem to matter. And again, like getting to the Stanley Cup, as long as you're hitting your stride at the right time, like, yes, you want home ice and all that, but is there a difference between a 105-point team and a 107-point team in the grand scheme of things? Not really. And because they haven't gotten to this total in the last 2 years, and there's no reason to think that all of a sudden they're going to have a resurgence this year. I mean, yes, they have a full season of Jake Wallman. Is that really making that much of a difference? In some regards, yes, but not in that overall point total. So yeah, I would say, the under makes a lot of sense here for me.
As our wise guru of the show, Chris, has said many times in the past, on a contract year, Connor McDavid's about to go off this season.
So
He's about to have
that would be the argument
season.
to go with the over there.
Even if he does go off, like he's still entitled to however much money. He doesn't need a contract year. Every year is a
Absolutely.
contract year for him. He's Connor McDavid's negotiation is real simple. You just slide him over a blank check. You say, put a number here. It's already pre-signed by whoever's got to sign it. Just say, Connor, what's the number? Just put it down here, and we'll move on extremely quick. We'll pre-dot your I's and pre-cross your T's. Like McDavid is going to do everything as can. The problem is he can't do it alone. And even if he has, Draisaitl there and stuff like that, the rest of that team is just not filled out. They're missing pieces, specifically in that bottom six. I think there's a spot missing in their top six, which is problematic because they had some guys there and now they're not there anymore. But every time they go out and they get somebody to come in, with the exception of Zach Hyman, who has worked out extremely well for them, right? He came over from Toronto, signed that deal. He has been, even if he had a down season last year, I don't think anybody was thinking he was going to score 50 plus again, but like he has been good. He's come over and he's produced. But
I'll put Ekholm on that list too. But outside of that,
they went out to get Skinner, Jeff Skinner. Didn't work out. They went out to get Victor Arvidsson. Didn't work out. So, I mean, how many more players can you go through that top six that are, going to show some type of promise?
Well, that's the problem too, is that they're limited with their cap constraints. So there's only so many options that they're available to them to go out and try and upgrade around them. And that's not going to get any better with Connor McDavid set to get a raise. So,
and by salary cap restraint, we mean Darnell Nurse's contract.
Correct. That's the way to translate that.
That abomination of a listen. Shout out to his agent, man. That's what good agents do. They get money for their clients, and he definitely got paid.
Good news, fellas. We're getting ready to go here. We are
yes,
2.5 minutes away. 2.5 minutes away. We could do a quick Calgary Flames. You want to do them quick? Sure. Over 84.5 minus 112. Team last year, looking at their standings from last year, they also had to go on a run to get in the mix. They finished with 96. Year before that was a bad year, but finished with 81, but only 3 points below that. And the year before that finished with 93. I know they can't score, but is it crazy if I think Anaheim's better than 80.5? If Calgary can even put the puck in the net a little bit more than they do now, 84.5 minus 112 to take the over there. I'm on board with that.
I can live with that one because 84.5 is a little bit disrespectful there. I don't think they are a 90 plus point team. I don't think so. Like they're not there yet, but this is a really good team on the back end. They have a lot of good players who can defend. They have I don't know if you want to call him a world-class goalie, but like Dustin Wolf's going to be him one day. And he wins the Calder Trophy if it isn't for Lane Hudson because of what he was able to accomplish as a rookie goalie on a team that wasn't very good. Like they don't score goals. That is a true scoring by committee. Like they have to find offense from all four of their lines. You can't do it with one. So I would take the over. I don't think it might be tough. It might take them 81 games to get there, or maybe the last one 82, but they'll get there.
And again, not to say that they're necessarily a playoff team. I know they were in the mix last year, but you can get to 85, 86 points. And even if they get to 90, I don't think it's crazy to think that they could approach 90.
No, I think it's perfect. It's perfectly doable, perfectly possible. You need a lot of things to go right, but it's not as far-fetched as, let's say, thinking Edmonton can get over 100 like that. I have more faith in the Flames covering the over than I do in the Oilers covering the over.